All right, let's jump right in. You often hear that Turkey is, around 95% Muslim. But that number, it doesn't really tell the whole story. It kind of masks this incredibly rich diversity, especially when you look at one of the biggest yet most misunderstood groups, the Alevis.
We're talking about a huge chunk of the population here, somewhere between 15 and 20%. And here's the thing, they generally don't worship in mosques, their rituals are filled with sacred music and dance, and their identity has been this source of fascination and a lot of debate for centuries. And that really gets us to the heart of the puzzle. Their tradition doesn't fit nicely into the Sunni or Shia boxes that we're used to. In fact, it's like if you ask 10 Alevis to define Alevism, you could honestly get 10 different answers. Some don't even consider themselves Muslim at all. So what exactly is going on here?
Okay, to really get a handle on the Alevi worldview, you got to start with the name. Alevi, it comes from Ali, who is the cousin and son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad. And for them, his role is just absolutely central.
Alevis have this really powerful interpretation of this saying. For them, it means that while Muhammad brought the outward, public revelation, Ali is the key. He's the gate to its inner, hidden, mystical meaning. So you see, for Alevis, Ali isn't just some figure from history. He's the cosmic guide to divine truth.
Now, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, reverence for Ali? Isn't that just Shia Islam? And that's a great question. But this is where it gets complicated. The crucial difference is their source of authority. Alevi spiritual leaders, they're called Dedes, and they inherit their position through a direct bloodline to Ali. This is totally different from Twelver Shiism, where authority comes from years and years of intense religious scholarship. Alevis just don't follow Shia law or recognize their clerics.
And yet, and this is a big and yet, they share a ton of common ground. They have this deep, deep reverence for the Prophet's family. They honor the very same 12 imams that are central to mainstream Shiism, and most see the Quran as a holy book. This overlap is exactly what makes Alevism such a complex and fascinating tradition.
So if it's not strictly Shiism, then what is it? Well, the next layer of this whole puzzle is Sufism, the mystical side of Islam. You see, the Alevi tradition is profoundly shaped by Sufi ideas, which always put the inner spiritual journey way above any outward rules. This right here, this gets to the very heart of the Alevi approach. They make a distinction between the Zahir, that's the outward stuff, the religious duties like daily prayers, and the Batin, which is the hidden esoteric meaning. For Alevis, the Batin is what really truly matters. They believe the Quran's true message is hidden in symbolism and allegory, and that if you only focus on the external rituals, you're missing the entire point. And this spiritual path is often pictured as a journey through 4 gates. Sure, you start with Sharia, the external laws, but you don't stop there. The goal is to progress through initiation, to gain that inner knowledge, and finally, hopefully, reach Hakikat, which is unity with the divine truth. Religion for them is a journey of transformation, not just a checklist of rules.
You know, if you were to ask an Alevi to just boil their tradition down to one core idea, you'd probably hear this phrase: restrain your hands, your tongue, and your loins. What that really means is that at its heart, Alevism is all about ethical self-discipline. It's about how you actually live your life and treat other people, mastering your actions, your words, and your desires, not just about what rituals you do or don't do.
Okay, so if Alevis don't typically pray in a mosque, where do they worship? Well, their central gathering is a really unique ceremony called the Jem, and this is the heart of Alevi religious and social life. The Alevi place of worship, the Semeve, is just fundamentally different from a Sunni mosque. The focus is all on community, on gathering, and on reconciliation. In fact, and this is amazing, no one can even join the ceremony if they have an unresolved argument with someone else in the community. The Dede leads everything in the local language, Turkish or Kurdish, and music and dance are absolutely central to the worship. Alevis have this incredibly poetic way of talking about their sacred music. They often call the saz, which is a long-necked lute, the Quran with strings. This instrument isn't just for background music. It's the main way they transmit their theology, their history, and their poetry, all through these sacred songs.
Now you have to understand, this unique, often very private tradition, it didn't just appear out of thin air. To really get what Alevism is all about, you have to look at its history, which for centuries was a story of being pushed to the very margins of society.
So its roots go way back to mystics like Haji Bektashi Veli, but things took a turn in the 16th century when many Anatolian tribes sided with the rival Safavid Empire. The Ottomans started seeing them as a political threat. This led to intense persecution, which forced the tradition to go underground, to become more secretive. And this long history of oppression, which tragically continues into modern times with events like the Sivas massacre, has profoundly shaped the Alevi sense of identity.
And that brings us right up to today. As Alevis have become more visible in society, a really passionate debate has erupted right inside the community about what it even means to be Alevi in the 21st century.
So on one side, you have a prominent view, held by groups in Turkey like the Cem Foundation. They see Alevism as a unique, national expression of Islam. It's deeply rooted in Turkish history and culture, they say, but it's still firmly inside an Islamic framework.
But then, you get a completely different take, especially from Alevis living abroad in the diaspora. The German Alevi Federation, for instance, argues that identifying as Muslim was basically a survival strategy to avoid being persecuted throughout history. They're advocating for Alevism to be recognized as its own, entirely separate religion. And honestly, the debate doesn't even stop there. If you look at modern Alevi views, it's this incredible spectrum. Some see it as a universal philosophy that goes beyond any single religion. Others emphasize pre-Islamic Turkish or Kurdish roots. And there's even a small group that's leaning closer to mainstream Shiism. There is just no single easy answer here.
So when you get right down to it, the Alevi enigma leaves us with a much bigger question. Who actually gets to define a religion? Is it the historical texts? Is it the state-sanctioned religious leaders? Or is it the lived experience and the self-identification of the followers themselves? The ongoing story of Alevism shows us that this question is anything but settled.